What's going on, everybody? J-How here, and it's time to go full God mode, a build that has been resurrected from the dead, now farming up T13 at an easy level. This Diablo 3 Barbarian build will get you farming up quickly, getting those rifts out of the way, getting those keys, and more importantly, getting those legendaries to get you powered up. So let's get into it. Alright, so here's where we're at. Battle Rage with Bloodshed. You're going to get extra damage from this. That's all you really have to worry about. Getting that damage is where it's at. Also, speaking of damage, Whirlwind. You're going to go with Hurricane. You want to pull everything into you. Look, when you get even remotely decently geared, you're going to be one-shotting or pretty close to one-shotting. We'll talk about some of that with the gear in terms of getting that max value until you start to get those ancient items. But you're going to go with the Cold Rune here, and that's going to bring everything in from afar. But that's not going to be the only source of damage with the Whirlwind, as we'll talk about the Wrath of the Waste set in the future. Sprint with Marathon. There's no real reason for this other than, hey, it just gets you around quicker. And speed is the name of the game. This is a speed build. Next up, Warcry with Impunity. To be honest with you, you don't even need it. It's just kind of there. In case you get started and you don't pick up gold for the first 3 seconds, then hey, maybe this helps, but it doesn't matter. Next up, Threatening Shout with Terrify. This is going to help you out to terrify enemies to get you more speed, and we'll talk about that when we get to the gear, because there's a specific weapon that this will benefit from, or a specific item, and we'll talk about that in a bit. Wrath of the Berserker with Insanity. The bonus damage is really what helps push this build forward. I'll talk about how to gear this appropriately so you have 100% uptime with the Wrath of the Berserker. For this build, for the passives, Brawler, you want that extra damage as long as there are 3 enemies within 12 yards, 20% damage increase, let's go. Also, Rampage, very easily, you're going to stack this up in a matter of seconds. You'll have permanent uptime on that, and that will give you a ton of damage. Boon of Bullcathos, this is one of the ways you'll have 100% uptime on Wrath of the Berserker, and it's one of the reasons I'll talk about some of the gear settings as well on why it's better to go this way instead of another way when it comes to that. Also, Berserker Rage, you're going to be at or near max sphere as long as you're staying busy and you're hitting things. Look, it's an extra 25% damage boost, and that's easy to take on and will help push you through. So checking out the gear, your weapons, it's the Bullcathos set, and you're going to get that increased fury generation during Whirlwind, and you get that extra attack speed and movement speed. This gives you the speed. Speed is the name of the game, and you're going to get that fury generation back as well. That will help you out. When you're running this build, it's all about damage. It doesn't really matter about getting life on hit, any of that stuff. Just getting damage, and if you have a really good roll, more damage. Now, I mentioned the set bonus. You're going to be going the Wrath of the Waste. Now, on seasonal, you're going to run 5 pieces of this, and that's going to be your boot, your pants, your chest, your helm, and your gloves. You'll get the full 6-piece bonus. If you're running this on non-seasonal, just go ahead and throw those shoulders back on. Needless to say, getting the bonus damage on that level, on that 6-piece bonus is where it's at. We saw a tremendous buff in Season 16 with the latest patch, and you're going to get that extra damage, and you're also going to get the Dust Devil rune when you're doing Whirlwind. That's where a large portion of your damage is going to come in. Easy mode. Now, I mentioned the shoulders. The reason why you're opening up those shoulders is because you can go the Mantle of Channeling. This can give you 20 to 25% additional damage just while whirlwinding. That's it. It's just a bonus damage. Extra potential 25% damage can go here. There is some trade-offs on terms of maybe what you can go with in the cube, and you guys are likely to find some other options that might eke out a little bit more damage, but it's really easy to get value out of this. Now, the name of the game, how in the world do you go God mode? Well, you swap out your belt for a gold wrap. On gold pickup, gain armor for 5 seconds equal to the amount picked up. Well, given that, hey, now your pet can actually pick up gold for you, guess what? You don't have to go out of your way to pick up anything. It's going to come to you. You don't have to worry about that. We used to have to run a different item back in the day that would bring in the gold towards you, or a different item, that avarice band, to bring in gold to your direction. And that was one way to make sure that you could keep that gold and get that armor up. Now you've got a pet. You literally have something that will do it for you. It's AFK mode to pick that up. So gold wrap, this is where your armor comes in, and you just keep stacking. Now, we'll get into the legendary gems, but basically you already know it's Boon of the Hoarder. Just killing an enemy will cause gold. That's where it comes in. We'll talk about that in a moment. First, let's talk about the rings. The Skull Grasp. Increase the damage of Whirlwind by up to 400%. Just grab this, Slap this thing on, and next thing you know, you've got that extra damage on the Whirlwind, which really helps you push here. Now, the next ring, it's whether you want the speed or not. The Rechel's Ring of Larceny, I mentioned having that fear on your cry, on that threatening shout, to fear them away. Now, this has a chance to fear on its own, but you can also just press a button and fear things as well. Getting anywhere up to 60% movement speed with this ring. You don't need it. You can actually go something that does damage here, and you could potentially look at going Focus and Restraint, but you need to stay away from that because we'll talk about another ring that's going to go in your jewelry slot. But the Rechel's Ring, easy to pick up here and could be impactful. If you want more speed, it's what it's all about. The Rechel's Ring, very strong. Now, speaking of speed, the Warzechian Arm Guard, since you're going to be farming with this build, this actually helps. I mean, you can just sit there. You're going to destroy objects at basically every stage of the game or close to it, and this just helps the speed. If you need more damage and you don't feel like your gear is up to snuff and you're at T13 and you're like, it's not going as smoothly, it's going well, but it could be better, just slap on the strong arm, something along that. You'll get that knockback. You'll get that in there. You'll be bringing everything, get that bonus damage that way. If your gear's really up there and you don't care about that speed, go ahead and get that bonus. The Custarian are there. You're not really going to benefit from that, but hey, every little bit counts in that climb. When it comes to your amulet, it really doesn't matter what you go. If you have a good Hellfire with good rolls and you get one of those passives that can increase your damage, slap it on, else it doesn't really matter what you have. But getting that extra socket, crit chance, crit damage, and if you can get an elemental, get that physical damage out there for those tornadoes coming out, then go for it, else the strength is fine. Don't forget, you can roll Whirlwind on both your helm and your boots, which will help increase the damage. It's a good part of getting that extra damage to help push this in the farming category. You can do this in all Nephilim Rifts or even bounty farming. This is incredibly fast. You just want to get that damage out, so you don't have to double up. The only things you really have to double up for until you get that gear up there, maybe the yellow mobs, sometimes the blue guys, and you double up maybe 1 or 2 waves, and you move on. It's up to you whether you want to pick up stuff along the way, but you can keep an eye out on key items, set items, or certain legendary items on, do I stop for this? No. If not, keep moving. Also, for this gear, you don't even need to use the resistance gems. You just throw in extra strength. You throw in your strength into your pants and your chest, and that's easy. Just more damage to help clear this even faster. Also, you could even throw in an emerald into your helm if you just want more gold. The resistances, the cooldown reduction, it's not really necessary there, but it can help in the overall functionality of this build. Speaking of which, let's get into the Kanai's Cube so we can talk about how you'll have that 100% uptime on Wrath. Before we get there, the weapon, the Furnace. This will help you rip through elites at T13. Just getting that extra damage in will help you go through, make those second or third passes, and then just move on. For the armor, I mentioned this briefly earlier, the Hexing Pants of Mr. Yan. Now again, you guys are likely to come up with another tweak or two that can really push this. Mess around with it on your own. Maybe you haven't even found the pants yet, but your resource generation and damage is increased by 25% while moving, and considering that you actually never stop, that's going to help your resource generation with your fury and your damage just by keeping active. So nice damage buff all around. Now, we've seen the Obsidian Ring come out a lot in a lot of builds to get the cooldown reduction in Season 16. It's no different here. You're not going to be using your war cry. Your threatening shout you can use sometimes, but you don't have to use it for that movement speed. Same can be said about your sprint. It's more important to keep your Wrath of the Berserker up than it is those other ones. And you'll see that once you have your Battle Rage popped, and then it's just a matter of using whatever is on cooldown. Making sure that you have Wrath of the Berserker is actually all that really matters. You don't need a ton of cooldown reduction. I don't even know if I have any on my gear other than the socket in my helm. So just having a minor amount of cooldown reduction means permanent uptime on Wrath, and then the ability to spam out your sprint or your Terrify with that rune and just keep this thing moving. For your legendary gems, a Taeguk is incredibly powerful for this. Having a decently leveled Taeguk makes this build so much easier and so much smoother to run. Getting that extra damage for 1.5 seconds when you spend a resource on a channeled skill, which is constantly, and it stacks up 10 times, this is a lot of damage that you will need. So just leveling this up to 50, 60, you're going to feel the impact. If it's low level, you're going to be like, hey, I need more damage. Taeguk is one good way to get it. Also, the Gogok of Swiftness. I mentioned some of the cooldown reduction that you're going to need. Getting the secondary effect on this, because the attack speed is okay, the dodge doesn't matter, but the secondary effect of this, once you have it to level 25, getting a cooldown reduction per stack of Swiftness, this will help out a little in that cooldown reduction department, and that's really all it's good for. Next up, Boon of the Hoarder. I already mentioned this. Getting that chance on killing an enemy to cause that gold to explode, that's what you want. But more importantly, the 30% increased movement speed whenever you pick up that gold will keep you ripping through those rifts. Alternatively, if you feel like you've got enough cooldown reduction with the Obsidian, you could easily just run a Bane of the Trapped. You're going to be pulling things in. Also, you could just run a Wreath of Lightning. Getting more movement speed plus some extra damage on top of it is another way to just continue to push the pace with this build, get the movement speed, but also get some extra damage. So it's really up to you. If you need the Gogok, go with it. Get that extra cooldown reduction to help manage that, which isn't super necessary. Else get the Wreath of Lightning. The extra movement speed is there. Also, you get the value of Bane of the Trapped, or you could even go Bane of the Powerful, just more damage all around. You have a plethora of options for the bonus damage just to make this build even stronger and faster as you go along. And that's it. That's all you need to know. It's literally just spin to win and move forward. Don't stop and keep going. Don't stop. Get it. Get it. That's it. God mode is back in T13. You can farm up with the best of them. You can help power level your friends. You can bounty run. You can split push. You can do all of that. You can get through those quick Nephilim rifts to farm up some gear, to farm up those Greater Rift keys. And then that's where the other builds come into play, which are on this channel. Feel free to check those out. Don't forget to subscribe as well if you like the video. As always, I appreciate you guys watching. Till next time, happy hunting. See you again.